Silence. It's not just the absence of words. It's the presence of power. When someone stops speaking to you, the air changes, every second stretches, every thought echoes louder. And somewhere in that quiet, something begins to shift, not in them, but in you. You start replaying memories, rewriting conversations, doubting what was real. The silence feels heavier than any argument could, because unlike anger, silence doesn't explode. It seeps in, slow and cold, until it reaches the part of you that just wants to be understood. This is the unspoken weapon of the silent treatment. It doesn't shout to control you. It makes you question yourself until you hand over control willingly. The silent treatment is one of the most underestimated forms of psychological manipulation. It doesn't bruise the skin, it bruises the mind. It's often used to punish, to gain power, or to avoid accountability. Psychologists call it a form of emotional withdrawal, where communication is intentionally cut off to make the other person feel guilty, anxious, or desperate for reconciliation. It's a tactic as old as human emotion itself, yet hides behind something deceptively ordinary: silence. At first glance, it can seem harmless. Someone just needs space, right? But the difference lies in intention. True silence seeks calm. The silent treatment seeks control. And the reason it works so effectively is because humans are wired to crave connection. When someone we care about suddenly disconnects, our brain interprets it as rejection, a social form of danger. That's why the silent treatment doesn't just frustrate us. It activates the same neural pathways as physical pain. Silence in this form becomes a psychological battlefield, one where only one person knows the rules. There are two primary motives behind the silent treatment: power preservation and emotional avoidance. Some people use silence as a weapon. Others use it as armor. Let's start with the first. Those who use it to preserve power often crave control in their relationships. They see communication not as a bridge, but as a lever. The moment they stop speaking, they pull that lever, and the other person scrambles to fix the imbalance. For them, silence isn't a pause, it's punishment. It's a calculated withdrawal meant to destabilize the emotional rhythm of the relationship. This kind of silence is common among individuals with narcissistic traits. They thrive on creating uncertainty because uncertainty breeds dependence. Imagine this. You confront someone about their behavior, hoping for understanding. Instead of engaging, they go quiet. No texts, no calls, no eye contact. You start doubting if you overreacted, if you were too harsh, if you somehow caused this. That's how the power shifts from the person seeking truth to the one withholding it. Psychologists refer to this as intermittent reinforcement. When connection is given, then suddenly taken away, the brain becomes hooked on trying to get it back. It's the same principle behind addiction, a cycle of deprivation and reward. But there's another side to this silence, the kind born from emotional avoidance. Some people don't use silence to control. They use it to protect themselves from emotional overwhelm. These are the avoidant communicators, often raised in environments where expressing feelings led to rejection or conflict. For them, silence is safety, a way to avoid saying something that might make things worse. The irony is both sides, the punisher and the avoider, cause pain. The punisher uses silence to dominate. The avoider uses it to disappear. But in both cases, the result is emotional distance. And that distance can be more damaging than any argument, because at least anger involves engagement. Silence, on the other hand, signals absence, the quiet proof that someone has emotionally checked out. This is why silent treatment feels so haunting. It doesn't end the relationship. It leaves it suspended in emotional limbo. In the silence, people reveal their truest selves. The one who gives a silent treatment shows how they deal with discomfort by controlling or escaping it. The one who receives it learns how deeply they fear abandonment. And between those two realizations lies a deeper truth. Silence, when misused, isn't calm. It's chaos disguised as control. But not all silence is toxic. Sometimes it's a boundary. a necessary pause to regain clarity. The difference between healing silence and harmful silence lies in intention, and that's where we'll go next. Because to truly understand the hidden power of silent treatment, we must learn to recognize when silence protects peace and when it's used to destroy it. Silence is not one-dimensional. It wears different faces depending on who wields it and why. For some, it's a mask for pride. For others, it's a language of fear. But at its core, silent treatment always dances around one human truth: control over connection. Psychologists describe a phenomenon called emotional cutoff. It happens when a person severs communication, not to solve a problem, but to avoid feeling vulnerable. They can't tolerate discomfort, so they hide behind silence, mistaking withdrawal for strength. But silence doesn't erase emotion, it only buries it alive. And buried emotions don't disappear, they ferment. This is where the silent treatment becomes truly destructive. Because beneath its calm exterior, it breeds resentment, confusion, and emotional instability in both people involved. Yet there's another, subtler layer, the performative silence. This is when silence is used not to punish, but to display moral superiority. A person might go quiet not out of anger, but to signal that they're above the drama. It's a quiet way of saying, I'm the calm one, you're the problem. But underneath that stillness is ego, disguised as self-control. Then there's reciprocal silence, when both people retreat at the same time. No one apologizes, no one reaches out. The silence stretches until connection dies naturally. It's not an explosion, it's erosion, a slow, quiet decay of something that once mattered. And perhaps the most haunting of all is strategic silence. Used by manipulators, narcissists, or emotionally unavailable partners, this silence is weaponized to create insecurity. It's the emotional equivalent of dangling love, like a prize that must be earned. Each unanswered message becomes a lesson. I'll talk when you behave. Each ignored plea becomes proof of dominance. The truth is, silent treatment isn't about quiet at all. It's about control without confrontation, punishment without accountability. It lets someone hurt you without ever saying a word. But here's the paradox. Those who rely on silence to control others are often the most afraid of losing control themselves. Their silence screams the loudest when they feel powerless. When you've been on the receiving end of the silent treatment, you know the ache it leaves behind. It's not the lack of sound that hurts. It's the absence of acknowledgement. You start to feel invisible, like your existence has been muted in someone else's world. That's why silence lingers. Words can be forgiven, but being made to feel like you don't matter, that carves something deeper. Yet, within that pain lies a kind of revelation. Silence, when used against you, forces you to listen, not to them, but to yourself. It reveals where your worth has been placed, where your need for validation has been misused. It teaches you the difference between longing for peace and begging for attention. Eventually, you learn something powerful. Your self-worth should never be at the mercy of someone else's silence. In the quiet, you can begin to hear something else, your own boundaries forming. You start to realize that peace isn't found in chasing communication. It's found in accepting that sometimes silence is an answer, just not the one you hoped for. That's the transformation. You stop fearing silence and start mastering it. You learn to recognize when to reach out and when to let go, when to speak, and when your silence means strength, not surrender. Because healing isn't about getting the other person to break their silence. It's about no longer needing them to. The hidden power of silent treatment lies in its ability to expose the emotional landscape of both the giver and the receiver. It shows who hides behind control and who seeks connection no matter the cost. But silence, when reclaimed, becomes something else entirely. It becomes clarity. It becomes self-respect. It becomes peace without permission. So ask yourself, when silence enters your life, what role do you play? Are you the one who uses it to control, or the one who uses it to heal? Because silence can either be a weapon that wounds others, or a boundary that protects yourself. And maybe That's the final truth. The most powerful kind of silence isn't the one that punishes. It's the one that ends a cycle. If this changed how you see people or yourself, subscribe, stay curious, and keep listening. Because sometimes the quietest truths are the ones that echo the loudest.